Hey everybody, Danny Davis, the Austin American-Statesman. It's Tuesday. It's Longhorn Confidential time. We appreciate you tuning in on YouTube, listening on wherever you get your podcasts, checking us out on Facebook. We do appreciate the engagement. But as always, joined by Kirk Bohls, Cedric Golden. We're here to talk about the Longhorns, and we're here to talk about last weekend's 24-21 win over Iowa State. Texas, we'd seen this story before. Get up big in the second half, 10 points, see that lead slip away. But this time, Texas rallied, got a late touchdown, and then shut the door. Jalen Ford fumble recovery on a big hit by Anthony Cook on Iowa State quarterback Hunter Deckers sealed the deal. Texas was able to run out the clock after that. So Kirk said we'll start there. Just overall thoughts on the win over the Cyclones, and has Texas finally learned how to close, or is there still some concern after seeing Iowa State still rally and take a late lead?
Haven't learned how to close yet. They haven't. They
Yeah,
haven't. I mean,
yeah, they learned how to close against Iowa State.
Xavier Hutchinson dropped a pass that would have beaten them. So they needed a little bit of luck to go with that. They did make the play that needed to be made to win the game, but the jury is still out, especially late in games, fourth quarter games. I think the good part is, and Sark said this, they were able to win when they didn't play very well, and they wouldn't have, like you said, they wouldn't have won this game last year. So that's growth, that's some maturity. It's a veteran locker room. Love me some Jalen Ford. Love what he's brought to this defense. But if we're saying that, oh yeah, they're ready now to close games consistently, still haven't seen that yet because that drop pass was huge. That kid was arguably the best player on the field for all but that one play. So we'll see this weekend.
Yeah, they learned how to close against Iowa State. Whether they can close against the Cowboys or Kansas State or TCU after that remains to be seen. They do start pretty fast normally, if not the first drive. In the first half, they usually pretty much have it going. So maybe Sark needed to script the entire game. Forget scripting 15, 20 plays. Go ahead and script 60 plays and see how that works. But yeah, they were lucky, but you got to be lucky to win some games, and they were good when it counted. Like you said, I mean, they had the drive to score with 4:40 left, and then they had the Iowa State drive that they stopped, and they made a great play with Jalen Ford and Anthony Cook. So that builds their confidence, and whether they can really close or not, if they believe they can close and they've you know made that jump, it's worthwhile.
And Jalen Ford on Monday was named the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Week. 8 tackles, had that game sealing fumble recovery, and also had an interception. Excuse me, I can't speak, in the end zone to prevent Iowa State touchdown in the first half that would have given Iowa State a 14-0 lead. So Jalen Ford, as he has all season, just came up big for the Texas defense, and we'll see where that goes going forward. But he's having a spectacular season among many guys on that defense have stepped up. But let's move ahead. We're not here to look back. We're here to look forward. Whatever Steve's saying is about rearview mirrors or whatever they always say over there. We're here to look ahead of us, not behind us. And this weekend, Texas is going to go to Oklahoma State. 2:30 kickoff on ABC. If you are watching at home and not making the trip to Stillwater, like me and Cedric and our photographer, our colleague Sarah Diggins will be with us on that trip too. So we'll have actually 2 Montana graduates on that trip. Cedric's not, but he's an honorary Montana grad since he's wearing maroon today, as am I. But this game is actually kind of surprising if you're just looking at the Vegas lines. Texas is actually favored on the road. Texas is ranked 20th. Oklahoma State is ranked 11th. On paper, that doesn't make much sense, but there is some concern about Spencer Sanders and his health, which I think is probably skewing this line. But if Spencer Sanders is healthy, we've been seeing that name for what seems like 50 years. He's been there a while. He's a veteran, really good quarterback. But is he, if healthy, the best quarterback in the Big 12? Or are you going to go with Quinn Ewers? Or are you going to go with someone else? TCU is having a great year. Maybe Max Duggan deserves to be in this conversation. Who's the best quarterback in the Big 12 right now? Kirk, we'll start with you.
I'm going to go with the Mad Max. I mean, I like undefeated and TCU 6-0, and I think he's gotten it done. And he's a dual threat, same as Spencer Sanders. you look at his stats, guys, 16 touchdowns, 1 pick. That's pretty phenomenal. Just a hair under 70% completion rate. Where Spencer Sanders, who I've never really trusted as a polished passer, he's a damn good athlete, great running threat. He's got 13 touchdowns, 3 picks. So he's got 2 more interceptions, 3 fewer touchdowns, and the rushing yards is pretty negligible. Sanders has 309 yards rushing, Max Duggan 261. So at this juncture, I would say Max Duggan is my all Big 12 quarterback. But let me add just a caveat.
Yeah.
If I had to pick one quarterback in the league to win the game, I'm going to take Quinn Ewers.
Wow. So that's vintage Duck. He covers all the bases. You want to mention Johnny Unitas?
He's not eligible.
I like Quinn Ewers as the best quarterback in this league. I do. Max Duggan didn't even win the starting job at the beginning of the season, and so he's come on like gangbusters. I love him. 66 of those 260 came on one play against the Sooners. And he's given Texas fits over the years. But man, I just something about this Quinn Ewers, just polished, mild mannered, doesn't seem to let anything bother him. Grace under fire. Definitely the biggest upside of the three. But I'm gonna go Quinn because I think if Quinn hadn't missed those games, his numbers would be very similar to Max Duggan, except that he does not run. He does not run. And that'll be interesting because I know this Oklahoma State defense gets after the quarterback pretty well.
So who'd be your all Big 12 quarterback right now?
That is a numbers award. It'll be Max Duggan if he keeps up this pace. If he ends up with like 25, 26 touchdowns and 4 picks, it's gonna be Max. Plus, you always have to consider whose team's playing well. And if they get to the Big 12 title game and they're a top 10 team, yeah, it's going to be Max.
Who you got, Danny?
The best quarterback in the group is Quinn, but Max is having the best season. His team's undefeated. They're higher ranked, and he's, let's face it, not a lot of people were expecting this from TCU this season, and what they've done is really respectable. Quinn doesn't have the stats yet just because he's missed pretty much 4 games, but we'll see what happens. And, as we get some more games in there, obviously Texas and TCU still have to play each other in a few weeks. And I just got to say, I'm a little disappointed that Jalen Daniels got hurt because he was, having a spectacular season. They were doing a lot of fun stuff at Kansas. So who knows if Kansas would have been able to keep that up, but it's disappointing that he really isn't in this conversation now just because he got injured, because he was having a spectacular season for the Jayhawks. Let's kind of flip it around to the other side of the field for Oklahoma State, since we completely actually ignored Spencer Sanders in that conversation. But the defense, Oklahoma State defense has been playing pretty well. They actually lead the Big 12 in sacks. They're averaging 2.83 per game. Sad, you wrote about this in your column after the Iowa State game. The Texas offensive line did really well in keeping Quinn clean and kind of helping, especially late. Texas run the ball down the Cyclones. A really good rush defense, a really good defense at Iowa State. Do you think this Texas offensive line, which is young in parts and veteran in other parts, can they keep the I just forgot who the Cowboys? I'm struggling here today, people.
And they keep
the Cowboys away from Quinn Ewers and open up some holes for Bijan Robinson and Roschon Johnson to keep doing what they've been doing.
I like that question because I really think, Danny, I think they've really found something since they struggled against Texas Tech. Y'all remember they couldn't close that game out. They could not run the football in money time. They're up 31-17 and start getting these 3 and outs because they were getting that push on the interior. I think the young Bucks have grown up in the middle of that line. Cole Hudson and Hayden Connor are playing really well. We know that Kelvin Banks has held his end up. He's a grown man already at left tackle. But I think that those youngsters have kind of grown up in the middle. They've held their water here in the last 2 or 3 games, and it'll be interesting to see if they can take that act on the road. Not just them, but their whole locker room, because the jury's still out on that. What are they, 1-6 in the last 7 true road games. And so, um, hostile environment. Anyone that's been to Pickens Stadium knows that that crowd is right on top of the visiting bench. I mean, you can almost reach out and touch the players. So it's gonna be something that they're gonna have to go through, communication wise, environment wise, and this game will tell us a whole lot, not just about the offensive line, but about the team as a whole.
Well, the Cowboys have a really strong defensive front, but it's a good league for defensive linemen. I mean, you just mentioned Iowa State, best run defense in the conference. They're stout up front. Tyree Wilson at Texas Tech, like you said, they couldn't run the ball. They couldn't stay on the field and convert a third down against Texas Tech, and Texas maybe doesn't have that one dynamic all-star player up front, but they've got 15 sacks already. Oklahoma State's got 17. So there's not that much difference between them. And they don't have the one person at Stillwater either. I mean, you got Brock Oliver, Tyler Lacey. I mean, Mason Cobb. They all have about 3 sacks. It's like every one of them has 3 sacks. So
That's a
you
good
can't,
thing. That's a
it
good thing.
is. It's good. And that's kind of the way Texas is. They get it. It's pretty much spread out. You don't have a guy with 9 sacks. So, you have some linebackers and a cornerback with a sack, as well as Ov or Ojimo and some players like that. Devondre Sweat, Byron Murphy. Texas has a lot of depth there. So I really think they can match as far as defensive fronts. But that is the strength of the Oklahoma State defense, because their secondary can be hard at times. And that's the way they were at TCU last week.
Said you alluded to it, but Texas has struggled recently on the road. They're 1-5 in true road games under Steve Sarkisian since he was hired ahead of the 2021 season. They did win in Dallas this season, but that was a neutral site game. Their only true road game was in Lubbock, and as me and Kirk both know, I mean, we're still trying to avoid the Red Raider fans who are storm the field to celebrate that win. So can Texas cure its road woes? I mean, road woes. This is going to be a crazy environment. Oklahoma, for whatever reason, scheduled Texas as its homecoming game. I don't know if that's the same insult it is in high school when they schedule homecoming games in high school. I know scheduling, you don't have a lot of choices in the college game, but can Texas figure it out? Because that crowd, it's going to be crazy in Stillwater, and they'll be wearing orange, but Texas knows it's not the burnt orange that they like to see.
I like them to go in there and play well early. Late is what I'm worried about. They have a quarterback who doesn't seem to flinch, and that's a big deal. They have a couple of they have the best running back in the country, in my opinion. They have good skill people, and I think if they can avoid the early surge, and Kirk and I have covered this rivalry forever. We've been at Texas OU games. The 2005 Big 12, I mean, the 2005 national champion was down 28-12 at half in Stillwater. And I'm going to hazard a guess that team's a lot better than this one. So, and the year before, that same nucleus was down 35-7 at DKR. So the mullet is not afraid of the Longhorns, and Mike Gundy will have them ready. And I predict an onslaught early. If Texas can hang in there, if we're looking at a 14-14 game in the second quarter, Texas is in good shape. But you don't want to be down 21-7 because Oklahoma State doesn't blow a whole lot of leads. They have to Texas in the past, but not to Texas teams like this one that have struggled on the road. So the Longhorns just got to hang in there first half, third quarter, fourth quarter. If they're in a close game, I like their chances because they have a quarterback that can make plays downfield.
Well, one thing about that 1-5 record, of those 5 losses, Quinn Ewers played in 0. He played in none of them. So they're a different animal with him behind center there. So I think, and they're mentally tough. I think that's one thing. They are mentally tough. If they weren't, they wouldn't have won Saturday against Iowa State. And then there was some weird stuff that happened in a lot of those road games. You remember we were at West Virginia, Danny, and remember, I don't know if they played three quarterbacks or just two, but we're waiting for Ben Ballard to come on because Casey Thompson and Hudson Carver both hobbled there. That was just a strange game. Arkansas, that was just a beehive. Texas
No,
was kind of
we
overwhelmed, and that was Hudson Card's second start. Again, back to the Quinn Ewers approach of Baylor. They should have beaten Baylor and Waco last year, but Joshua Moore had three turnovers. So a lot of this stuff, strange stuff had happened. They had the meltdown at Ames last year. Y'all were there when they lost 30-7. But I think the Quinn Ewers factor and the mental toughness gives Texas an edge in this one, probably why they're favored. And who knows about Spencer Sanders' health. But
I'm gonna
this
tell you,
has a
dog,
different feel to it.
for that line to move like it moved,
That's
it's like
strange.
Vegas already knows that Spencer
Yeah.
Sanders is playing in this game, and it gives me pause because I'm writing a "Stop Spencer Sanders" column this week, and maybe I should just go interview a bookie instead of the Longhorns about it because that for that line to move so drastically just makes no sense because the Oklahoma State Cowboys are not chopped liver, and the Texas Longhorns have not played great on the road. So if Spencer Sanders doesn't play, that makes all the sense in the world, this line moving. But if he does,
Mhm.
I don't know why it moved like that.
What do you think, Danny?
I do know Spencer Sanders is not going to play. Mike Gundy is not going to tell anybody until Saturday. He's taking the same approach that Steve Sarkisian took earlier this year with Quinn Ewers, that he's not
Oh, my.
talking about injuries with the local media. So that'll be interesting to see. Both Texas and Oklahoma State have one loss in conference play. Texas is 3-1. Oklahoma State's 2-1. Both teams are looking up at TCU and Kansas State, who are both 3-0. TCU and Kansas State actually play in Fort Worth this weekend, so there'll be one undefeated Big 12 team, at least in conference play. So I guess the question is, Texas and Oklahoma State, is this a must-win game? Is this a loser leaves town kind of situation? Because one of these teams is going to have two conference losses, and they're going to be looking up at three different teams. But Kansas is 2-2. West Virginia and Baylor both have two conference losses. Oklahoma and Iowa State are kind of done in the picture. So, I mean, those teams are in the rearview mirror. But does Texas have to win this game? Can they make the Big 12 championship game with two losses, or is this a must-win game?
They can make it with two losses, but it's going to be tough considering who they still have to play if they lose this game, and you'll have that tiebreaker disadvantage to the Cowboys. So, yeah, I think the team that loses this game is going to have a really tough road to hoe, but by no means is that team eliminated because it's a crazy conference this year from top to bottom. I mean, there are teams that can. I mean, you telling me that if Dylan Gabriel is playing, Oklahoma's in play against whomever they play. They just are. They're not running wild. They didn't run Wildcat last week, and they look different. They still can't stop anybody. So I think that definitely a three-loss team doesn't make it to Dallas this year. But I think the loser of this game is still in play. Just going to be a lot tougher to get there.
I think it's probably likely we have a two-loss team in Arlington because you got 8 of the 10 teams already have a loss. Iowa State, Oklahoma put a fork in both of them.
That's
Three
over.
losses, and people are going to be rooting for the Sooners to inflict some pain on these other teams here. And one other thing, too, guys, I think Texas has an advantage, and their loss came to Texas Tech, which doesn't figure to be involved in any tiebreaker.
A good
So,
point, Doug.
and that might help them too. So I do think we'll see a two-loss team in Arlington. I don't know if TCU can run the table. They've got to come here in Austin. I do know Texas' next 3 games. Well, you got Oklahoma State, Kansas State, TCU. You got 3 ranked teams.
We're going to find out. We're about to find out.
We're gonna know real quick. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, this isn't a must-win, but boy, it's a really need, really want it, gotta have it, kind of really hope you get it, kind of win.
We're going to wrap things up here. Obviously, me, Sed, and Sarah will be in Stillwater this weekend, and we hope you check out our work both leading up to the game and post game on statesman.com. Kirk, what are you doing this weekend? Are you in the FCB? What is going on in Kirk's world?
Yeah, I think I'm all soccer all the time now. They're playing Dallas on Sunday night in an all Texas Western Conference semifinal. So they win that one. they may host LA Galaxy or go to LAFC, the number one seed in the West, the following week. So, yeah, I'm gonna be watching a lot of college football as much as I can on Saturday. Then I'll be at Q2 on Sunday night. Y'all have a safe trip.
Thursday, obviously, the On Second Thought podcast comes out. What are we looking forward to this week? What's going on? What's going on with that?
Go ahead, Duck. You're the
Well, we may try to get a soccer. I'm going to see what rattle Josh Wolf's chain or Brad Stevens, the goalkeeper, and see what they got going on if they can fit us in. Otherwise, I think sitting there kind of look at the national landscape a little bit. It's boy, I don't know how much football you guys got to watch after we covered the Iowa State game.
fun, good
What
game.
a fun game! And I don't know if you watched Utah USC that going for two. Tried to get Sark on the record there, whether he would go for two in the last minute. He didn't necessarily bite on that, but what a phenomenal day.
You sounded like he would have. Sound like he would
Yeah,
have.
yeah, I think he might. He would be open to it, I think.
And
So
you got in Cam Rising, former Longhorn.
there you
How
go.
about that? How
How
about
about the
that?
Tennessee Volunteers taking down the giant that is Alabama? Alabama's struggling a little bit. They really are. Lost Tennessee, almost lost to A&M and Texas. So what's going on in the world?
You
And
said
that's
Saban trusts those cornerbacks too much. That's the problem right now.
Yeah,
You don't have Patrick Surtain back there anymore.
yeah,
You don't have Drake Kirkpatrick back there anymore.
yeah.
I mean, those guys are playing man, and good receivers are running past them like nobody's business.
Yeah.
He's got to fix that, and he's
Yeah, last thing, Will Reichard's missing field goals now, which has to be a sore point for Texas Longhorns.
You know what? Yeah, he makes that one. He makes that one against Texas, and now he can't make one.
Yeah.
He's 3 out of his last 7.
College kickers.
College kickers.
we'll have Barry Harrell, our colleague, in here next week to talk more Alabama football. But if you're into Texas volleyball, excuse me, they're at home on Saturday night against West Virginia. The soccer team's on the road both Thursday and Sunday this week, so you have to watch them from afar. The baseball team has a scrimmage on Sunday if you want to head out to Dishwalk Field on Sunday afternoon. I think they're playing Houston. So there's lots still going on here, even though the football team's on the road. But me and Sed will be hitting the road soon. We hope you tune in to statesman.com to see what we do at the game. We appreciate you watching this video. We appreciate you reading our content online, and we will see you next week.
Go Grizz.
That's right. Just don't lose to Idaho again, Montana. Yeah.